Bay with Good Morning Bay.
Get to know about the traffic on your way and what's news around the world today.
Some wisdom skills along the way.
Oh, and a song to hum along with and sway.
Get your perfect entertaining start to the day.
At 9 a.m. every weekday morning with
Mahima's
Good Morning Bay.
Good morning, Bay. आप सभी लोग हमारी तरफ से एक प्यार भरा नमस्ते.
Namaskar.
Vanakkam.
Namaskara.
Khushamadi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sat Shri Akal.
మీకందరికి వందనము.
जय स्वामी नारायण.
जय श्री कृष्ण.
जय जिनेंद्र.
हमारे इस्माइली भाई बंधुओं को बोलते हैं याली मदद.
मोराली मदद बोलते हुए सारे फीजी बंधु को बोलेंगे नीसा बुला बरजन. हम आ गए हैं आपके प्यारे महिमा के द्वारे. मैं से फालतू बाबा.
And of course myself फालतू रानी लेकर आपके लिए एक और drive time that's going to make your Wednesday totally wonderful and totally mastani bandu jane.
True that, but the Janin, as you know, हमारे शो पे we have to give you what's happening locally, what's happening globally, right? So locally start करते हुए start with रास्ते का हाल, because रास्ते का हाल सुना के मुझे बहुत टाइम हो गया बरजान. So ये जगह पेश है आपके लिए रास्ते का हाल एकदम टोटल सस्ते में.
It's time for the Bandu Traffic Update. Call us from wherever you are at 408-912-2479.
Yeah. You know what, Fadwani? Some people are thinking like, oh, it's extended out further to May end. I just feel like as though no, actually people already opening up slowly.
Yeah.
You know why? Traffic is heavier right now. I don't hear the birds anymore, Fadwani.
Really?
Can you imagine? It's so bad in the mornings. I hear traffic hum. As opposed to birds. You know, it kind of gives you an awakening, at least to me. I don't know about you. What do you feel?
Well, you know what, Altibaba, with regard to the birds, right?
Yeah.
I was listening to a report actually, and with an ornithologist, and we think that the birds were coming out and chirping more, singing more, right?
Yeah.
During this COVID time. Well, not really. Apparently, their singing is at a lower decibel as opposed to when it before this whole COVID shutdown happened. Because, think of yourself like if you're in a noisy bar, when you're trying to communicate, you speak at a higher volume, right? It's just that we were so busy and caught up in our lives that we were not listening to the singing of the birds.
Exactly what my point is. I agree with you on this. You know why? I really feel that.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the connection to nature is lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Might be lower decibel, but come on, yeah. Have you heard the hum of the freeway, Fadwani? Oh my God, we took it for granted. In fact, when I landed in America, there was an accident I was in, so I was on a freeway. I realized I couldn't talk on a cell phone. That's true. Okay?
Wow, okay.
When you're on a freeway, have you tried talking on a cell phone? You just can't. It's so much of noise.
When you have the windows down, yeah.
No. If you're in an accident, you're stuck on the freeway. It's difficult for you to communicate. You know that it's very loud. The noise is very loud. We think it's very quiet now, but the tire and the thing.
Yeah.
And actually, I never seen a time when there was not much of noise, and this time actually I saw it. I got to witness it, so I'm telling you, I'm going to miss it now. People are back on the roads, as simple, but luckily, what's happening is people are cautiously back on the roads. Not many accidents report for you guys. When they are back on the roads, it means there's going to be congestion here and there, but it's not impacting traffic, so that's okay. That's a good thing. Palo Alto will some congestion happening over there on 109 and everything, but don't worry about that. The bridges still are kind of empty. I think there's no toll again on the bridges as of now. Probably after the COVID shelter-in-place lifted, they'll resume to that. A lot of things happening, but in fact, we're going to be talking about the news as well coming up pretty soon, where we'll talk about what impact it's going to have post-COVID, because we've got to start thinking about that, Banjan. COVID this could be the last month. We'll have a shelter in place and then we'll open up.
Yeah.
When that opens up, that's going to be a floodgate. Not all people getting on the roads and going to spending it all. No. More than anything, it's going to be a problem because there's going to be many people's loans coming up to payments.
Right.
Rather, people's a moratorium on some house rent and everything. Now, how will they pay the rent? Because it comes due. Right? Even if you had a kind of a deferment of your utilities bill also, right? Suddenly you'll start seeing many disconnections happening and all. So it really is a problem because it's affecting real people, and that's something which we all have to address about. And we are here to actually talk about the stories. So if you have any stories that way, please do share with us. Send us a message, because what happens is the stimulus also is only for people who are well versed or whatever it is, right? The common man should benefit from whatever they're planning. right? And it's up to us to actually make sure we tell representatives that they got to think for everybody's benefit, right?
Right.
So we'll talk about that, but Jan, we're going to get some guests also this week and next week. This week already, we actually brought on the superintendent of the schools here
In
from
the Milpitas School District.
Yes, and I got a lot of information about the Fatwa needs. In fact, it's good that we have this kind of people thinking for the benefit. Like that, there are many people in your community you want to talk about, you want to get more information, do let us know. We can actually get them on air and you can actually ask them questions directly as well, right? Think of it like a town hall or whatever it is. You can always do that.
Yeah.
Right?
In fact, yeah. I think even if you have a matter that you want to be discussing with the community, Bandujan, and you're, a lot of people, small businesses are struggling at this particular point. And at Radio Dihadis, we want to let you know that we are a small business that is struggling ourselves. So we think that it's time to band together and it's time to, help each other. So if you're a small business owner who is right now listening to this program and you want to get your message out to our exceptionally active and, engaged Bandhujan, then and our Indian community, and of course our South Asian community, because we've got a lot of Pakistani and Bangladeshi and Sri Lankan listeners as well who listen to our programming. So you're more than welcome to reach out to us by calling us on 408-660-6753, or you can also email us on bandhu@mediamahima.com, BANDHU @mediamahima.com.
And rather, Banjan, today's Ganika Kida has got to be something from the past, I should say.
A blast from the past?
Not exactly a distant past.
Acha.
I think 2010, 10 years ago. Almost decade. Sonam Kapoor not introduced actually. Sonam Kapoor and Abhishek Bachchan.
Was she introduced in this movie?
No, she introduced that movie with Ranbir Kapoor, right? Which was a flop.
Oh, Savriya.
Yeah, but this movie actually has got good songs. So you got this nice song, A.R. Rahman's composition, Prashun Joshi's lyrics, Bandujan, and of course sung by Mohit Chauhan. Oh yeah, I didn't tell the movie name, right? Delhi 6.
मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली जरा पंख झटक गई धूल अटक और लचक मचक के दूर भटक उड़ डगर कस्बे कूचे नुक्कड़ बस्ती में ये इतड़ी से मुड़ अदा से उड़ कर ले पूरी दिल की तमन्ना हवा से जुड़ अदा से उड़ फुर तू हीरो रे मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली बादल की कॉलोनी दिखला दे ठेंगा इन सबको जो उड़ना ना जाने उड़ियो ना डरियो कर मनमानी बढ़ियो ना मुड़ियो करना दानी उड़ियो ना डरियो कर मनमानी बढ़ियो ना मुड़ियो करना दानी मसक्कली उड़ मटक्कली मसक्कली उड़ मटक तुझे क्या गम तेरा रिश्ता गगन की बांसुरी से है पवन की गुफ्तगू से है सूरज की रोशनी से है उड़ियो ना डरियो कर मनमानी 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 बढ़ियो ना मुड़ियो करना दानी उड़ियो ना डरियो कर मनमानी 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 बढ़ियो ना मुड़ियो करना दानी तन ले मुस्कान ले कहे सन न न न न न हवा बस ठान ले तू जान ले कहे सन सन हवा मसकली मसकली उड़ मटक 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 कली मसकली मस मस मसकली मटक मटक
एंड आपका बच्चन अगर आपको मालूम नहीं तो इस बारे में आपको एक छोटा ट्रिविया देंगे फादर रानी
हाँ.
ये गाना मसक्कली का मतलब नॉट नो मसक्कली actually is the kabutar.
That's right. It is not the name of any one person. That's right.
And actually the meaning is very nice, you know. Pasanjali is a great poet.
Yeah.
I think I would brand him as a great poet because he's a good thinker.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
what do you have? I thought you were like totally, your eyes lit up when I said trivia. So obviously you have something in mind.
No, I was just saying that the Basakali song actually is not the name of any one particular person, you know.
No.
It's the name of that pigeon or whatever. It's referring to that pigeon that Sonam Kapoor is dancing with in this particular song.
Very good.
And they go, yeah, I didn't know this part that the actual terrace shots, right, of
Yeah.
Delhi 6, this is also shot on the terrace, right, it was shot in Jaipur.
Yeah?
It was not actually shot in Delhi.
But cheats, my goodness.
Yeah, exactly, the cheats. So what they've done is they've given the feel of Delhi through post-production. Basically, original backgrounds were replaced by images of Delhi. And the key challenge in the shot was extending the generic terraces.
Ah.
Building the geographic landmarks of the area like Jama Masjid, Golden Temple, Red Fort, and all that, you know, with their respective geographical positions.
Yeah.
And the person who actually, helped with this entire, what do you
Project,
call it,
okay.
VFX project, right, was what do you call that? Is chroma background, is it? Is that what it's called? Like when they actually do these overlays. I don't know. I think Mahimaji used to tell us something about
chroma key, huh?
Yeah. So these VFX techniques, they used somebody called executive producer VFX of. Well, it's actually somebody called Prasad VFX, the executive producer of Prasad VFX. And this
Prasad
person...
Labs, okay, huh?
Yeah, and they were the people who suggested and guided the creation of that 360-degree Delhi geo environment, supposedly in 3D, with photographs from Delhi terraces, apparently.
There you go, Banjan. Right now, Faltrani is very good at this. You just right now realize how good she is at Googling.
Yeah.
She's exceptional.
Well,
and,
I just thought that was very...
it's okay. I call it being resourceful. I was a person when people came and told me, don't use textbook while you're writing an exam. I said, I'm just being resourceful.
No,
and
Ray.
guess what?
What?
After so many years, now people have open booked exams.
Altu, I was going to ask which part of Delhi is this set in. And then I realized when I was trying to Google the answer exactly so that I
told
could
you.
ask our bandhus,
That's what I said.
I realized that it's not set in Delhi, it was actually shot in Jaipur.
Darling, I tell you one thing.
हाँ.
तेरे में मैं एक हुनर देखता हूँ. You have a kind of a talent in your Faltrani.
Patronizing match, Altu Baba?
अरे नहीं रे बाबा, you're very
Okay.
good at googling stuff. And ये googly ऐसी मारती Google की नहीं, googly भी डालती है बहुत.
हाँ.
And आप देखोगे हमारे shows पे कभी का contest में क्या googly डाल देती है बीच बीच में. But anyways, good. I like it now. Badaja, now you know what was on screen is never true.
Yeah.
सच्चाई छिप नहीं सकती फालतू रानी की आंखों से.
Whatever
के
nonsense.
गूगल मार के बोलेगी सच्चाई क्या है उस फिल्म में से.
Well, I'm just going to tell you this, Barujan, कि वो VFX क्या उतना इतना अच्छा काम किया है with regard to this
हाँ.
is I mean one wouldn't believe that it's not shot in Delhi.
Well, no, it was very well done. So
Yeah.
best part about the whole thing, Marjan, I think there's a very spiritual tone I can take on this Faltrani. You know, the best kind of play is when the actors and everything else, they don't know that it's a play. Yeah, even in fact look at Banjan, हमारे हिंदू कल्चर में कहते हैं कि हमारा लाइफ जो है एकदम एक नाटक है.
हाँ.
And the godhead who was playing the natak, he's
Correct.
so engrossed,
हाँ.
he himself doesn't know what it is. So basically the movie is a small subset of our spirituality, Banjan.
Right.
That's why we excel and we have so many movies coming out and we have so many stories of each of us, right?
Correct.
And yes, and all those stories, Banjan, actually are reality in their own sense.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll talk about that later on. आज का show नहीं है, आज का Good Morning Bay है. We want to share with you guys news updates and everything, Banjan. We know that. We know. Okay. Here you go, Banjan. This is your news for today. Yes,
Well, Banjan, let me tell you that today the Blue Angels are taking to the sky over Texas and New Orleans today to salute frontline workers. If you want to see the flight path, we will share that, the link to actually watch this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Radio Day Hotties. But let's go on over and find out what is going on with regard to the coronavirus and also what is our darling leader, like our Aldo Baba calls him, the supreme leader.
You started liking him also, calling him darling.
No, I was being sarcastic. Anyway, Coronavirus Task Force. The White House's Coronavirus Task Force will start winding down its operations by the end of the month. Officials say doctors and experts from the task force will still advise the administration as well as businesses and state leaders who may want insight on how to open or reopen local economies. But the group as a whole is expected to scale back meetings and other activities. Some see the move as another sign the Trump administration is ready to pivot away from the coronavirus crisis as much as possible and focus instead on re-election efforts and messages of economic revival. Meanwhile, the US COVID-19 death toll has topped 70,000 and an influential model has adjusted its prediction of total US deaths to 134,000 by the beginning of August.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a really
That's like
sobering.
almost double.
Yeah. 134,000 is what they're saying. But again, let's just pray and hope that that's not really going to. It's a model after all, and it's a statistical model. So let's hope that that's not true and people recover from this particular crisis, and we are not reopening too soon. World updates about the coronavirus. Let's tell you, the UK now has more coronavirus deaths than any other country in Europe. Nearly 30,000 people have died of COVID-19 in the country, putting the royal ahead of other hard-hit nations like Italy and Spain. The grim development comes as Prime Minister Boris Johnson is due to address the country on Sunday. He's expected to announce the next steps in the nation's coronavirus response, possibly including how it will ease down lockdown measures. And speaking of easing of
Lockdown measures? What's happening, Paldwani?
well,
I know that they actually are easing some of the Orange County beaches right now because the governor supposedly got into a deal with the local authorities there. And also, what is this place which is very close to our thing? It's remote over here. Is it called? Yuba County.
Yeah.
Yuba actually is saying that they're going to relax even more because they claim that they only have had one case of corona hospitalization.
Oh wow.
And they say that the way it's spread out, the neighborhoods, they say they automatically are getting into a thing, so they probably are going to open up sooner than any other part of, the Bay Area, I suppose.
Right. No, I was going to say that in Germany too, they're beginning to relax. Actually, I was reading some news story where we're talking about how Angela Merkel has gone into phase 2 of the coronavirus response, where they're beginning to now ease up on restrictions on local businesses. So that's another news item from there. And Danish restaurants and businesses are going to slowly start opening up. Netherlands.
So we're going to have a lot of Danish in the market now.
Netherlands, please ignore that, Madhuchan. I apologize on behalf of my ill-informed co-host
Hey,
here.
excuse me, I know cream Danish, cheese Danish.
Because everything we talk about, it relates to food for him. But let's also tell you that Netherlands is also beginning a phased easing of the lockdown starting this Monday, according to broadcasters from Netherlands as well. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is monitoring the spread of COVID-19 in Latin America amid fears that the pandemic could drive more migration up north. The Department of Homeland Security is focused on hospital capacity in the region and whether the health infrastructure is equipped to adequately test and treat patients. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is also sending daily reports on the COVID-19 situation in Mexico. This is something that's really, getting a lot of news right now, a lot of attention, and this news is about a whistleblower complaint. That's
Oh.
right. Dr. Rick Bright, the ousted director of the federal office involved in developing a coronavirus vaccine, has filed an extensive whistleblower complaint saying his early warnings about the coronavirus were ignored.
Bye.
The Trump administration.
Whoa!
He also says his hesitance at promoting a treatment touted by President Trump led to his removal. Bright has also led the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority before he was reassigned last month to a narrower position at the National Institutes of Health.
Oh, that's worse than actually firing him.
Yeah. He says he raised concerns about U.S. preparedness for coronavirus starting in January and pushed back on efforts to make the hydroxychloroquine available for COVID-19 treatment. But his warnings, he said, were met with indifference and even hostility. So that's what is the...
So is he saying that the chloroquine actually is going to be helping people?
No. He's saying that
It doesn't
he
help.
fought back against it. But and that's when they started going lashing out against him. Clearly, isn't that a pattern? Anybody who speaks up against something that the president has said.
Supreme Leader? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I really want to know what happened to the guy, Kim
Kim
Jong-un.
Jong-un. Yeah, there's absolutely no news that's coming out of
Hey,
it.
there was some news about the fact that he actually was, in his yacht, holidaying at one of the places where he wanted to make it a tourist hub for North Korea.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's going on like that, Banjan. They say that the North Korean leader is following the footsteps of his father, who used to also do this, disappear for days on end. And somebody was saying that he might be doing this as a weight loss thing. I don't know. There's news reports that are coming out that he might be at a weight loss boot camp, something like that.
That could be something which you got to keep in mind, Padoni. What's going to happen is they probably will replace him with some other dummy, and the guy will be thinner than him, so they'll say, oh, he had a weight loss, where he looks different. Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and they'll never show actual images of him close up. Well, I don't know. It just sounds like some kind of. We should actually make a movie.
Yeah, probably the earliest one. The earliest one, I suppose.
Well, either ways, that was the update from there. And of course, let's tell you that, give you an update on what's going on with regard to the elections. Are we going to be sitting and with the same president? What's going to be happening? Well, hope not. The New York State Democratic presidential primary will go on as planned despite the efforts to nix it altogether. A federal judge granted an injunction related to a lawsuit brought by ex-Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang against the State Board of Elections. And last week, Democrats on the board voted to cancel the state's primary due to coronavirus fears. They also decided to remove from the ballot all candidates who had suspended their campaigns. Since that left only the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden, the board claimed the election would be moot anyway. But the judge's ruling means that the election will happen on June 23rd. States, including New York, have postponed presidential voting to actually go ahead and get the spread of COVID-19 to be stemmed right at the beginning, and then some have pushed to expand voting by mail. And many people have been comparing what's happening with regard to the COVID crisis to the 1918 flu study, right?
Hey, you heard it here first. I talked about it almost like around 3 weeks ago.
No, long before that.
Long before that, yes.
Yeah, I think it was day 10 or day 11.
Correct. Because
Yeah.
I really think there's a lot of similarity with that and this one.
Exactly. So what has happened is with regard to a new study that has linked the efforts of the 1918 flu pandemic to the rising strength of Nazism in 1930s Germany.
Whoa.
Yes, the study found that influenza deaths in various regions were correlated to the share of votes received by extremist parties in 1932 and 1933. To be sure, the study does not suggest that the flu led to Nazism. Other countries suffered the flu and escaped the impact of such sentiments, but rather that there was a link between the relative impact of the flu and the strength of Nazi support in the given area.
Whoa.
Yes. Oh God, that's scary, is it?
Very scary.
The study's authors say that's important now because the current pandemic has renewed questions about how a global crisis affects social response and preferences.
There you go. We already have somebody in the White House who's a supreme leader.
Yeah.
And he probably will wave his hand and he'll cure everybody of coronavirus.
Yeah. Oh. Well, speaking of the coronavirus and how it spread, right? Like this Dr. Rick Bright also said that he warned in early January. But a recent study, a genetic is actually suggesting that coronavirus spread swiftly around the world in late 2019.
Yeah, pretty much December. Yeah.
No, they're saying right from October, November, December. That entire stretch is when it started. A genetic analysis of samples from more than 7,500 people infected with COVID-19 suggests that new coronavirus spread quickly around the world late last year and is adapting to its human hosts.
Nice.
Yeah, scientists have said on Wednesday, and India actually released this report, right, that there have been 8 mutations or something of the coronavirus since it actually first affected a human. A study by scientists at University College London's Genetics Institute found almost 200 recurrent genetic mutations of the new coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, which the researchers said showed how it may be evolving as it spreads in people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's more important that nobody gets it, because when you don't contract the virus, the opportunity for the virus to actually mutate, actually stops right there. So that's a very good way of actually fighting the virus. In fact, people who are knocking the shelter in place, what, blah blah blah. Well, this is what it is all about, Belgium. So at the point, you just have to just make sure that you're safe for the betterment of the entire, I would say, human race.
Right, and another thing that was coming, a news report that came out yesterday was that Bill Gates, late last year, is adapting. I think almost a year ago. When was it that he brought out his book and he said that the U.S. is ill prepared if there is something like
2018 or 2015, one of those days.
What? That's a lot of years. That's 5 years and 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
you can't go wrong between that.
Well, either
Well,
way.
that's what our president does,
So he is now stating that, he in an interview he stated that America should go into a nationwide lockdown for another 10 weeks, complete lockdown, and he says that there should be shelter in place for 10 weeks for us to actually bring this under control completely. It kind of earlier I was one of those skeptics who was against it, but the total complete lockdown of everything. But I think to an extent, right, it makes sense, because if the virus doesn't have a host to go to, then automatically it's going to kind of fizzle out. It's really not going to affect many people. But then again, there is also the argument of herd immunity, where if it actually came in 2019, then is the United States developing herd immunity? And one news report that came out in NPR, right, Altbaba, was kind of scary, because there is an eerie emptiness of emergency rooms, which is actually beginning to worry doctors, supposedly.
Why they don't get paid for it now?
No, what they're saying is, where are the heart attacks and the strokes?
So obviously they're not there.
Yeah, they're like,
That kind of tells you that, they were just making money out of people who just had anxiety attacks.
yeah. So, like, no, man, it's like a patient. Okay, the story that goes like this. A patient apparently described it as the worst headache of her life. She didn't go to the hospital though. Instead, the Washington state resident waited for almost a week. And when Dr. Chowdhury finally saw her, he discovered that she had a brain bleed that had gone untreated.
Okay.
The neurosurgeon did his best, but it was too late. As a result, she had multiple other strokes and she ended up passing away, says Dr. Chowdhury, director of the Overlake Neuroscience Institute in Bellevue, Washington. This is something that most of the time we are able to prevent. And he says that the patient, a stroke survivor in her mid-50s, had told him she was frightened of the hospital.
Well, partly the hospitals themselves are fighting people.
Yeah. They're asking people to stay home. They don't even
Exactly.
ask them to come.
They called all the patients and told them don't even come for appointments.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And people are. This lady also didn't go to the hospital because she was afraid of the coronavirus. She just thought it's a headache. And if you're having a brain bleed and you take, what do you call those? Aspirin or one of those things, it's a blood thinner. It's even worse, right? And then this is the fatal fallout that US doctors have feared for weeks as they've tracked a worrying trend. As the pandemic has taken hold, the number of patients showing up at the hospitals with serious cardiovascular emergencies such as strokes and heart attacks has shrunk dramatically across the United States. Across the country, doctors call the drop-off staggering, unlike anything that they've seen before in their careers. Wow. So, this is another concern. How are they going to address this? We'll know, but recently we talked about a report that came out from researchers at Mount Sinai, where they were talking about the fact that coronavirus in younger people is leading to strokes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not just breathing problems, it's also strokes and other cardiovascular conditions and vascular conditions with regard to your brain.
Well, that's one thing which you have to make sure we keep in mind, because right now coronavirus shelter-in-place has given us focus on our health, and that's important to actually stay healthy. Understand that we actually are not separate from nature.
Right.
Nature is part of us.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
if we are mindful of that particular thing and not get into processed foods, all those things, and rather stick to natural stuff, you probably are better off fighting these viruses and everything, because nature definitely wants us to survive, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
Well, I think it's also kind of preparing us, because at every particular generation had something to deal with, and even when from the ice age, when the melting happened, what happened?
Ice creams were out of the shops. We don't have ice creams anymore, but that's what happened. What?
Ice cream?
Yeah.
Really?
What?
Was there ice cream in the ice age?
There was ice. There would have been cream for sure.
Okay.
They had milk at least. They had not only cows. They had yaks. They had elephant milk. They had mammoths.
Presenting to you, Altu Baba, the paleontologist.
Thank you very much, Fatani. Call me pale.
No, I didn't call you pale. It's
I'm
a paleontologist.
not pale at all.
Oh
I've got a lot
my
of
God.
melatonin on me.
Anyway, let's move on over. Let's tell you a little bit more about how the economy is doing. Well,
We know already how the cover is doing, but it's so bad.
Wait, no, it's not so.
Listening to all the news episodes, I'm getting depressed right now.
No, don't get depressed, Altu Baba.
Give me something nice.
Let me tell you something about private payroll. Shall I tell you that?
Okay, I'm not getting it, so I understand, okay?
Okay, it tumbled by a record 20.2 million in April.
Well, talking about payrolls, I know one more thing is going to happen in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's going to be a huge layoff by Uber and Lyft also. Uber actually is going to be laying off close to 15% of the workworce in San Francisco.
They are cutting
15%.
3,700 jobs.
That's 15% of the workforce in employees, not the drivers. Drivers are left to be on their own, by the way. That's a different thing totally.
But the CEO Khosrow Shahi is also saying that he's going to waive his base salary.
$1? How much?
I don't know how much his base salary is. Well, I'll tell you. He will forego his base salary for the remainder of the year, the company said on Wednesday, as the COVID-19 pandemic decimates
That's
its
noble.
ride.
Yeah.
Wait, but this comes amidst the fact that there is a lawsuit being filed by state's attorneys from from San Diego, Los Angeles, and from San Francisco. They're all coming together to file a lawsuit of what do you call that? Miscategorizing, where misclassification of workers.
Yeah, it happens only in California, Bataja.
Yeah, they actually are saying that they're expecting these people to perform as their workers.
Well, actually, here's the thing. They are saying that they're employees. Well, here's the thing.
But they're not willing to pay unemployment insurance.
That's true, but isn't that some requirement they should have for people who actually are going to be gig workers? Gig workers went into this particular gig primarily because they wanted more money.
Yeah.
Compared to what they would get paid as an employee.
Yeah, but they're the same people who are now fighting and saying that they don't get any benefits, they don't get anything, and
there's, I think, truth on both sides.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take sides right now, but I do think that this is an interesting time.
Yeah.
It's very unique, by the way. There was a labor market.
Yeah.
There was never a gig market, which is a new thing.
Yeah.
But again, it took almost 8 years. I
Yeah.
think, when did Uber came into play? 8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Uber, it took 8 years for them to think about this and come back and fight it. I don't know. Let's
Yeah.
see. Well, okay, anyway, coronavirus has its own benefits.
Yeah.
The shelter in place has its own benefits, Bataja.
Well, Uber has now said that their layoffs included its customer support and recruiting teams, and it expects to incur about $20 million in costs for severance and related charges. And Uber and rival Lyft have already withdrawn their full-year financial outlooks as demand for app-based rides dropped sharply across the world after governments imposed stay-at-home orders to curb the transmission of the coronavirus.
Well, Sadhvin, I just want to tell you something here. People should understand one thing. We're almost coming to a close of our show. I now quickly want to say this, a thought in your mind. 5 years ago, I attended a seminar talking about the future of workforce. And it said that there's going to be total automation. AI is coming into play. So there's going to be a lot of job losses. The new normal, but there's going to be job losses.
Across the board,
Yeah,
Binjan.
yeah.
Across the board. It's going to be happening. And of course, but Alto wanted me to end on a positive note.
Yeah, please.
So I'm going to tell you, Wall Street is gaining on optimism over easing of lockdowns.
Whoa!
Yeah, 5 of the 11 major S&P sectors have been trading higher, with the technology index leading gains as traders bought into stocks perceived to be resilient at a time when billions of people globally are still locked indoors. CVS gained about 2.6%. General Motors jumped up 6.3% after the automaker topped first quarter profit expectations. And let's tell you, Dow Jones was up almost 61 points at 23,943. S&P 500 was up 11 points at 2,879. And the Nasdaq Composite Index was up almost 98 points at 8,906.
Right.
And if you want to get more information about what we discussed today, you just need to visit MediaMahima.com or tune in to Good Morning Bay every single morning right here, Bandajan, and you will get an update right here with regard to everything pertinent to what's going on around us. That's all we have for you on this morning's edition of Good Morning Bay. We'll be back tonight live at 5 with another wonderful edition of the Pam Pam Show. Till then, have an absolutely wow Wednesday.
हवा से जुड़ अदा से उड़ फुर 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 तू हीरो पन्ना रे मजा कली उड़ मटक कली मटक